Alright, so today I want to talk about vitamin D supplementation. I want to talk a little bit about why I think it's important to supplement with vitamin D year-round for most people. A little bit about what type of vitamin D supplementation I recommend, and also a little bit about the general theory around vitamin D. So vitamin D is not a dietary nutrient per se. It's not something that we've adapted to getting from our diet. It's something that we've adapted to getting from exposure to sunlight. So when the sun hits the skin, that stimulates the production of vitamin D in the body. It's an essential nutrient, of course, very important for optimal health, as are all nutrients. And a deficiency is a big problem. But there are different levels if you look at it. You could look at something like there's an overt deficiency of something. That's really bad. That's when you get really sick and ultimately you could die. But then there are like what we could call just insufficiency, which means like you won't really thrive if you have these levels. You won't be overtly sick, but you won't thrive. So there's a range of sort of deficiency states where there's optimal and then there's everything else. And when it comes to vitamin D, it's become increasingly clear to me through my own personal research. I guess this is quite anecdotal, but based on what I've seen in the research literature, there's a certain level of vitamin D associated with better health than lower levels of vitamin D. And it seems the only way to reach that level is either through supplementation or by living in the tropics, essentially, exposing yourself to a lot of sunshine. And if you take a step back and think about it from a natural point of view, and you imagine, where did we originate? Well, we originated in the tropics, and in the tropics the sunshine is fierce. Because as you probably know, in the tropics the sun is such an angle that the sun is very strong, and that intensity is good for producing vitamin D. There are certain wavelengths of the sunlight that comes through that stimulates vitamin D. As you move away from the tropics, the sun is more and more at an angle through the atmosphere. It's lower on the sky, and that means that the sun has to go through the atmosphere, and that filters out some of those wavelengths, which means that in the autumn or winter here in Norway, even if I was out for hours in the sunshine every day, I would still not get any vitamin D production out of it, simply because the wavelengths that's supposed to be there that produce vitamin D are not present. They're filtered out through the atmosphere. So for people living out, like if you're living in the tropics and you're exposing yourself to sunshine there every day, you're probably producing enough vitamin D. But for everyone else outside of the tropics, even if you're in the subtropics, like Florida, like the Canary Islands, there are times of the year during the winter, essentially, where the sun is not strong enough to produce a significant amount of vitamin D. You might produce a little, but not a significant amount. So overall, you're gonna suffer unless you're in the tropics exposing yourself to sunshine every day. Your vitamin D levels are not gonna be optimal based on what science says that they should be anyway. But as I said, let's take that step back and think about it in a natural environment. Where did we originate? We originated in the tropics. In the tropics, the sun is very strong. We would be exposed to a lot of sunshine if we were in our natural environment. We would be naked, and our skin would constantly produce vitamin D almost year-round, maybe except for when it was rainy season for a couple of weeks here and there. We wouldn't get any sunshine, but mostly throughout the year we would get a lot of sunshine, produce a lot of vitamin D. And when you're looking at the people in the world with the highest vitamin D levels, or when the only people that sort of hit that sweet spot, so to speak, that science defines as the ideal level of vitamin D in the blood, the only people that reach that level is, tribal people living in Africa, outside, getting extreme amounts of sunshine. Not unhealthily amounts, but only like they're getting a lot of sunshine. And the other group is like lifesavers, at the beach, on Bondi Beach, the people saving lives, and Baywatch, those people, they're getting a lot of sunshine too. They're also having pretty epic vitamin D levels. So I'm just thinking like this. Well, science says, studies have shown time and time again that a certain range of vitamin D in the blood is associated with better health. And the other thing to look at that I look at is, well, how much vitamin D would I have, how much sunshine would I have in my natural environment? If I was outside without clothing, in a tropical environment, I would get a lot of sunshine. So that's just, those two things tell me that, well, anything less than whatever I would get in that environment would be less than ideal. And although we can get by on less, we might not be overtly sick because we're overtly deficient. We might just have a slight insufficiency. I don't want to be in that situation. I want to have the optimal level of vitamin D year round. I don't want to go through this kind of dip in vitamin D levels every winter just because of an ideology that, oh no, I don't need to supplement. Because again, that's a flawed ideology again, because as I said, vitamin D is an environmental nutrient, not a dietary nutrient. So it has nothing to do with your diet as a raw vegan or a fruitarian or a vegan in general, or even as a meat eater. It doesn't matter. If you're outside of the tropics, you need to supplement with vitamin D, in my opinion. You can use sunbeds, I've researched that a little bit, and it seems it's quite difficult to find a sunbed with the right ratio of UVB to UVA, and UVB is the important part that produces vitamin D. And even if you do find one, you need to, 10 minutes a couple of times a week might produce enough vitamin D according to the lower standards. But as I said, it becomes increasingly clear, I think, in the scientific literature over the last decade or so, it's become increasingly clear that the lower range of accepted levels of vitamin D is probably still too low. And as I said, if we're looking at ideal, we're dealing with much higher levels. And to get those from a sunbed, I think you would have to do more than 2 times a week, 10 minutes. And even if you did that, it would still not be the same as to be out every day in the sunshine in the tropics. And it would be expensive and it's inconvenient. Which brings me to my vitamin D supplements. I researched quite a bit and I found this. And I'm not affiliated with this product, and I'm not necessarily recommending that you choose this particular brand or anything. But this is D3, but it is vegan. That's the cool thing about it, because D2, vitamin D2 is vegan, but it seems that it's not as effective in raising your vitamin D levels as D3 is. D3 is the one that your body produces after sun exposure. So D3 is what I recommend, but the problem with D3 is that they take it from sheep's wool, among other things. I think the most common is sheep wool. So I think it's called lanolin, and that is not ethical in my opinion to enslave sheep in that sense. So I looked for a vegan product and I found out that there is now available vegan D3 produced by lichen. I don't know how to pronounce that. It's like stuff that's on the rocks in the northern climates, sort of like a moss almost, or like a yeast. No, I don't think it's a yeast, but well, I don't know exactly what it is, but it's the stuff on the rocks. It absorbs the vitamin D from the sun. Well, it absorbs the sunshine and then it produces vitamin D, and then that's harvested and put inside an oil, and it's simply just oil and vitamin D, cholecalciferol, and an antioxidant, vitamin E. So that's the one there. That's 1,000 international units, and that's the other thing. How much should you take? Well, that depends on the time of year and your current vitamin D status, and depends on a lot of things. And I'm not going to give you necessarily a specific recommendation now, but from what I've seen, most supplements are too low. They're just not high enough to actually give you the results that you want in raising your vitamin D levels. This one is 1,000 international units per drop. And I would recommend that you take anywhere from between 1,000 international units per day up to 5,000 international units per day. And it's actually quite difficult to take too much of it. You can take too much vitamin D, and that can be toxic, but you'll have to take, probably according to what I've seen, more than like 15,000 international units a day for like an extended period. So if you were out in the sunshine for a certain amount of time, and again, I'm sorry, I'm bad, I can't remember all the numbers in my head, but from what I've seen, the amount of international units of vitamin D that you produce from just like a short amount of time in the sun during summer is, I don't remember, 8,000 international units, or even I think as much as 40,000 international units if I remember correctly. So just being out in the sun, you produce a lot of vitamin D. So 1,000 international units is not really that much, but oftentimes you'll see supplements that are as low as 400 international units, 200 international units, and those are just ridiculously low. They won't really do much to raise your vitamin D level to the ideal range. So on a day with a little sun exposure, I might just take 1 drop, 1,000 international units. In the summer, I might take 0 drops if I've been out in the sun all day and it's June. In the winter, it's probably prudent to take about 4,000 international units, as much as 5,000 even, per day. So 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, you know, it depends on your location again. You'll sort of have to just sort of guess a little bit, because the further south you are, the further closer to the equator you are, the stronger the sun is and the more it will produce vitamin D in your skin. So it's up to you, but I definitely recommend that you do supplement. Why not? I mean, get your levels up there to where they would be naturally if you were in the tropics. That's my thought around that, and you know, that corresponds with what the scientific literature shows to be the ideal level. All right, let's sum it up. Should you supplement with vitamin D? Yes, probably, unless you're in the tropics. You should. You should do it year-round. Depending on your location, closer or further away from the equator, you might need to supplement more or less. Anything between 1,000 international units per day up to 5,000 international units per day seems to be a good range to stick to. You can do that by supplementing with a vegan D3 supplement. There are a few different brands out there. You can then do blood tests in order to gauge over time whether or not you're supplementing too much and your levels are too high, or if maybe you're supplementing not enough and your levels are still not in the ideal range. What is the ideal range? No one knows, but there's scientific evidence piling up, pointing to this sweet spot range, which I can't remember exactly what it was now, of course, off the top of my head, but that's essentially pretty much the same range as what we see in populations that are spending a lot of time in the tropical sun, like lifeguards and like tribes in Africa. So I take it we're tropical animals. We would be out in the sun all day, at least parts of the day, and we would get a certain vitamin D level, and that's what we should aim for. Insufficiency is not cool. Deficiency is certainly not cool, but even insufficiency of a vitamin or nutrient in general would cause you to perform subpar, feel not ideal, and why would we go through that when we can correct it? Alright, so that's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I recommend you do supplement with vitamin D, and just like I'm doing now. And it's still an experiment in progress, obviously, everything is, and over time we'll see, you know, maybe my opinions will change, but this is my opinion as of right now. Of course, this is not medical advice, this is just my opinion, as I said, so you better sort of make up your own mind and not really hold me accountable when you feel healthy and vibrant due to my excellent advice. Hope you're having an awesome day. Make sure to check out our website at sweetnaturalliving.com if you're interested in health coaching, or maybe check out our FAQ there or some of our ebooks. Hope you're having a good day. I'll see you around.